Hello everyone, welcome back to another Star Stable training video. Hey you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Star Stable videos. Today I'm doing a bit of a different video. It is a story time and it is all about my first job. Before we start, yes, I am training an old model horse. I think this was like the second horse that I ever bought, so that's a fun fact for you. Anyways, let's get into today's training because I need to train this horse. So before we start, once more, I am not making this video so that you guys feel sorry for me. It's not meant to be a, oh, I've lost my job, you should watch my videos, watch the ads on my videos all the way through to give me more money. Like, I'm not asking for your money. I'm not asking you guys for anything. The reason that I'm making this video is purely to share my experience of my first job, especially since I feel like my demographic is those people who are looking for their first jobs, or it's coming up to summer in like places like America, and I think summer jobs are popular in America. So yeah, I wanted to talk about my experience with a job. So let's say, why was I looking for a job? I was looking for a job because around my age in Australia is usually when a lot of people get jobs. So I got my job when I was 14. Yeah, in Australia you just kind of get a job at that age. I also had a trip to Italy in the following year, and the conditions for me to go to Italy was that I had to pay for it by myself. So that was my motivation. I wanted to go to Italy. So I was very lucky, and I actually knew the owner of a fish and chip shop. He went to my church. Before getting that job though, I tried to hand out my resumes. I walked around my local-ish town. It's not actually very local to me, but it's as local as it can get, honestly. I just couldn't do it. I get a lot of social anxiety and stuff, and I just could not walk through the doors and hand out my resume. But we heard that this fish and chip shop was hiring, so I did end up having to still walk into the fish and chip shop and hand in my resume to someone I didn't know. But I think the thought that at least I know the owner and at least I know they are hiring kind of like comforted me a little bit, because at least I knew that they weren't going to judge me from wanting a job there because they were looking for people to hire. Before I actually, okay, let's just go back a little bit more. I did actually apply for a job online and I didn't get that job. And I think like it was kind of sad. I was sad that I didn't get that job, you know. They just never responded, and it kind of made me feel like, what's wrong on my resume? Why can't I get a job? So after I handed in my resume, the owner of the fish and chip shop then talked to my dad because they had their contact details, and I don't know why he didn't text me because I did put my contact details on my resume, but you know, it's whatever. He basically just talked to me one night at church. Let me tell you, my dad, like on the car to church that night, my dad was like, oh yeah, by the way, he wants to talk to you about getting the job, like what to expect. And I was like, you couldn't have told me this a few days ago when you found out? Because like I was suddenly like anxiety levels increased. But yeah, basically he just talked about the job, what I needed to wear, and I went for my trial shift, and my trial shift was a paid shift, thankfully, because luckily, because I know a lot of my friends, their trial shifts weren't paid for. They just worked for free that night for a few hours, and that's totally legal because you're trying out the shift. So I'm lucky that my trial shift was paid for, and I started working in around June, July of ninth grade. So that's freshman for people in America. So yeah, but I was so anxious. Like I just, you know, it's a new experience and I was really worried, and that's just like the normal anxiety that you would have. But my first shift kind of, you know, it went okay. Like I was so overwhelmed because I heard someone told me that humans can only take in around like 9 new pieces of information a day or something. So when you go to work, you will like get to know your coworkers, so you already have to remember names. They were saying that that's one of them. You have to remember where to put your bag, like just the opening procedures, and there is so much stuff which goes into remembering stuff. I remember at the end of the night of my first shift, I went to the owner, because I worked with the owner for about my first year. That's a whole other story. The owner was so kind though, like this environment was so awesome to work in, but it's so weird how even in the kindest of environments, it still makes my anxiety like so bad. It's like, it's not the environment's fault, it's literally just like my confidence, but we'll talk about that in a second. But I remember going to the owner, oh my god, like it was okay, it was really busy, and he was like, that's not even busy. And I remember feeling like, I was like, oh my gosh, that's not even busy. But yeah, it's so overwhelming on your first shift. But yeah, my workplace, the people that I had on my shift that day were just really nice. It was very enjoyable. I look back on my first shift pretty positive. But that can't go for the full first year, because the whole first year went by. It felt so slow in the moment, but looking back, it feels so quickly. Like I literally feel like that entire year of work could go into a day. Like every day kind of felt the same, I guess. Obviously I had gooder days, I had better days and worse days, but overall it was just a year of anxiety. I was dreading work. I used to work on a Tuesday. After I finished my shift on a Tuesday, I would just be constantly thinking about the work that I had on Saturday, because I worked Tuesdays and Saturdays. So it was just like this constant role of thinking about it and being worried about it. And I feel like it all came down to just my confidence level and, you know, just my general anxiety, which was growing at the time, I feel. And work just didn't help me that, but that's not work's fault. And I truly loved working there, and we'll get into that at the end. But I think something that made the first year really hard as well was that I couldn't relate to any of my friends. I felt like I couldn't relate to anyone. Anyone that I spoke to, they didn't speak about. I loved doing the work. I didn't mind doing the work. I was all for doing work. It was just the concept of working. I think the people, just, if you have anxiety, you must know what I mean. But yeah, no one spoke about that to me when I asked them about their first job and their thoughts about working. No one mentioned that they were so anxious all the time, that they felt the same ways as me, which is why I'm making this video, because I want you guys who maybe are going into your first job, I don't mean to scare you, because I will tell you, like, my job was amazing and I honestly loved working, and it was something that I did manage to get past. But I'm letting you guys know that if you do feel anxious, then that is totally normal. So yeah, I think that was really hard, that I couldn't relate to anyone, and like I already kept a lot of myself, my worries and stuff to myself. So this, like, no one actually knew that I was struggling as badly as I was. Like, I didn't speak to anyone about it. I very much kept it to myself, which I wouldn't recommend doing. But in the second year, I always do that. In the second year, it did get better. I did start to gain some confidence when I worked with some new co-workers, when we changed business hands. It's a little complicated. I'm not going to get into that part. But yeah, new people started to work there, and I think I grew confidence because I was training them and I realized that I could do stuff, and I just felt so unsure of myself this entire time that I forgot that I could actually do stuff. When I realized that I could train people and I did know stuff, but they also, like, the co-workers trusted me, and they also helped build my confidence just by being like, oh yeah, well, she knows how to do it, like I know how to do it. They became work friends, I'm gonna say. Friends at work, and I'll discuss that a little bit later as well. I've got this entire thing planned out. Literally, I've written an essay. I recorded this before. I recorded this on the weekend, but I did not like how it turned out. I was so lost on what to say, and I was sicker than what I sound now. So yes, anyways. In this year, I had a better working life for sure. I still felt anxious, and I was still struggling with other things. Work wasn't the only thing that was hard for me at the time, so obviously I was still struggling, and I'm not telling you this so that, like, you guys can picture me as this perfect person, so that you feel like you have to be this perfect person. And also, it didn't happen overnight. I didn't just realize that I wasn't anxious anymore. I think the fact that I'm looking back on my experiences is when I can realize that there was a significant change. I think in the time, I didn't really feel it that much. I was still feeling anxious, if that makes sense. But yeah, honestly, just the people that I worked with really helped me a lot, you know, not even them helping me, like knowing I was struggling. It's literally just like them talking to me, the conversations we had in the kitchen. It was a very casual, yet professional, more professional than some of my friends' businesses. But yeah, just the people that I worked with, like they were good co-workers. But honestly, something else that happened this year was the reason that I started working. I went to Italy in October of 2019 and it was the best experience. Something that I definitely needed. Like I literally came back and people told me, you look so much better. And I'm not going to explain that too much because I don't want to get into it, but it can be taken as a good thing and a bad thing for my brain at the time. At the time, my brain took it as a bad thing, but they didn't mean it as a bad thing. It's just one of those things which people can say and your brain can totally twist it. But yeah, Italy was really the thing that I needed. It was so good. I wasn't anxious. Like I was anxious by a lot of things and I wrote an entire diary about it. Diary, journal, like I journaled the entire time in Italy. Journaling really helped me understand that my feelings weren't just in my head. A lot of the time I feel like my feelings aren't valid, and I think writing them down really helped me because I realized that the things that I was writing down, like that was actually happening. And reading back, like sometimes I cry reading back about my old journals because I was like struggling so much. Anyways, that's a little bit off topic, but I managed to pay for the Italian trip all by myself in that year and a half of work. I think it was around about that much, but I paid close to 6,000 Australian dollars, and my parents were there to loan me if I needed the extra money. But even to this day, I'm so proud to look back and know that I paid for it all by myself without ever needing to ask my parents for help. From the initial deposit that I had to make to the final payment, I paid it all by myself, and I'm so proud of that. And it really gives you a good feeling. Okay, next up on my list, I have let's talk about my co-workers. As I said before, my co-workers were so important. In the early days of my work, or in the early months, I worked with this guy on a Saturday morning, and he loved cars, and he probably wasn't the best example of a co-worker. He sat there on his phone the entire time and didn't work unless there was cooking to do. Then he would do the cooking. Other than that, I was wrapping and prepping and taking orders. I didn't mind that though. Like I literally didn't mind it at all. I was just chilling with my prepping and stuff, and he loved to talk about cars, and I like a good car. You know, I can respect a good car, but I've got no idea anything about cars. Like you could talk about the engine, I've got no idea what you're talking about, but he liked to talk about it to me. And the thing that I enjoyed about work was just the fact that people shared their interests with me, and you didn't have to share the same interests. You just listened, and people listened to my interests as well. And yeah, I really just loved getting to know people. And it's so weird because they are considered work friends to me. I don't talk to them outside of work. I think it's because by the end, a lot of the people who worked were actually younger than me by about 2 years, which isn't odd in the shift because you literally just work with each other. All the cool kids, I'm gonna say all the cool kids shared their social media. I talked with this lady and she was really nice, and she's like probably the reason that I gained a lot of confidence. And she was like the person, I don't know where I'm going, the person that I talked to. And yeah, that was my work friend. But yeah, they're literally like only my friends at work, and I know so much stuff about them, but I don't talk to them outside of work, and I probably might not ever see them again. Because now for the sadness, just over 1 week ago I had my last shift at work. I knew for about a month and a half that I was going to lose my job because unfortunately due to landlord issues, the fish and chip shop has to shut down. And yes, therefore I wasn't really fired, more like let go, but some people would say fired, so I'm like stretching the truth, okay? Like I was fired, but the kind of term is just let go, because obviously I can't work at a place which is shut down. Anyways, it was just really weird saying goodbye to something that I've really developed in. Like my first job, you know, I've been taught so many skills there, and it's been a part of my weekly routine for so long. The entire time that I've had YouTube, I've been telling you guys like, oh yeah, I work and then I upload YouTube videos every single day. And now all I do is upload YouTube videos every single day. That is now my full-time job plus school. School exists. But it's really weird to look back and see how much I've actually like grown in myself as well. I think that's why it's also hard to let go, is because I've grown so much mentally there as well that it's just weird to let it go. Honestly, we're not even training at this point, but I'm still giving you guys, you know, story time. My last 2 shifts were very strange feelings. We had a dinner party last Wednesday, which is why that video was late and why I said I sounded sad. You guys were like, are you okay? Are you okay? And I'm like, look, it's the end of the chapter. It's sad, but it's not super sad. Like no one's died, but it's still very sad to, I don't know. I feel a little sappy and weird and stuff. Like, should I even be that sad about leaving my job? But I am. I'm not gonna hide it. And it's weird because at this dinner party thing, we work in a small team, so I'd worked with everyone, and I'd known everyone for quite a while, except for the people who started working literally like a month before we found out we had to shut down. But we'd never been in the same room all together as a big fish and chip team. It was weird, and I didn't think about it until after I was driving home. And I was like, that's really weird, but it's kind of special. I don't know. Anyways, a lot of my co-workers didn't work there for as long as I did. There was only one other person who worked there for as long as I did. I think the lady that I said about before, I'm not using names, so it's really weird, but I think she worked there for about 2 years. I think probably like a year after I started working there, she started working there, I'd say. I think around about that time. But yeah, everyone else has been there for about a year or less. So I think it was definitely weirdest for me to leave the place as well. I don't know, that's just my own opinion. The dinner party was really chill though. We talked about our memories of the place and the regulars that we wouldn't see again, little stories like that, and where we would be going in the future, who had new jobs. And I was like, well, I'm not getting a job because I'm moving away from here in 6 months. And in the end, not at this dinner party, but a few people at my work did know about my YouTube channel. So yeah, because it's weird because people are like, I started to take on less shifts when my YouTube channel took off a little more, because I was like, YouTube's honestly paying me more than that fish and chip shop did, but I still enjoyed working at fish and chips. YouTube's also really unpredictable. Although YouTube did, even in the low months, pay me more than my fish and chip shop did, it's still, because I didn't work as many shifts at fish and chips, also like YouTube is really unpredictable. Like next month YouTube could drop me, you guys might leave me, I might not be in the YouTube algorithm again, and that's a scary thought, but it's something that I've really come to terms with, I think, or I'm really trying to continue to come to terms with, you know. And I'm gonna say, like, yes, it's scary not having fish and chips as a stable income anymore. I get paid once a month from YouTube now, and that's not a problem for me because I have savings and things like that, but it is still scary thinking that if YouTube doesn't carry through to next year, then how am I going to get to where I want to be? But that's something that you just kind of have to like deal with as you get to it, you know. We can't guess everything that's going to happen in the world, and sometimes we just got to let the future decide the future and live in the present. Anyway, I got super distracted. At the end of this dinner party, when I decided to leave, I did text my dad, and he came across the road from where he was parked to get me. I don't know why he walked across. Like, he could have said, oh yeah, I'm just parked across the road, but he didn't actually leave when he dropped me off. Well, I dropped myself off, but then my dad sat in the car because I can drive a car. Anyways, that's not important. But there were people in the kitchen cleaning up, and there was just like people in all like little corners doing whatever they were doing, etc. But when I left, like my dad came in and some people recognized, and they like came to the front, and like everyone who was there came and said goodbye to me, and I was the first person to leave because I was like that. I was also starting to feel a little sick, so I wanted to go home to the update as well. I wanted to get the update for you guys. But yeah, it was just really like overwhelming for me, and I think I was in such a surreal and overwhelmed state that I definitely did not say what I wanted to say. Like, it really hit me when they all came to say goodbye, and there was like this little circle around the door, like semicircle, because obviously I was standing at the door and everyone else like made a little archway around me, but not like on the door side. I wasn't trapped in a circle, that's what I'm trying to say. It was like a semicircle. Yeah, it just really hit me, and I feel so silly saying this, but I'm really gonna miss the people that I work with. And I couldn't really say something in the moment because I was so overwhelmed, I think, but like all I did was waved. I don't even remember if I said anything. I might have said goodbye, like thank you, but I just nodded, and I honestly felt like crying a little bit. But I bought them a box of favorites. If you live in Australia or anywhere that sells a box of favorites, then you know, like, you just bring a box of favorites to a party and you're like, there we go guys, share it around. But in hindsight, like we sold chips, yes. We sold, I can't speak anymore. We sold chocolate at a fish and chip shop. Don't ask us why, but like we had plenty of that left over. So in hindsight, like I don't know why I bought them more chocolate, but you know what? It's okay. It's the thought that counts. But yeah, I really wish that I could have in the moment said thank you more, really expressed how I feel. So if they're watching this, then hi. I really appreciate you and I really liked working with you, and I wish you the best for the future. But although this is the end for my first job and I really miss it, it's just the end of a chapter, and I'm so excited to see where my future takes me as well, moving to a new city at the end of the year, literally like 7 months from now. I'm so hyper. And brings me to my last point is I am so thankful for you guys here on YouTube. In the past year, I have grown so much mentally once more, just like personality wise again. You guys have helped me gain so much confidence in myself as well. If you watch a video from a year ago, I did not talk like this. I was still really quiet, speaking into the microphone, but now I feel really comfortable. Like, you guys have subscribed because of me, and if you're not subscribed, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button. But I'm so grateful for you guys, because looking back, I don't know how I would have afforded to do anything on my fish and chip wages that I want to do in the future. Not only did earning money from something that I really enjoy doing, this isn't about the money, honestly, just enjoying YouTube and realizing that I could finally do something that I really enjoyed, and you guys supported me for that really helped me decide what I wanted to do in the future. And you guys, I always knew that I wanted to do something to do with film and TV, but I didn't realize what I wanted to do. I wasn't planning for it. I wasn't thinking about the future, and now I'm thinking about the future, but I also need to remind myself to live in the present as well and let the future figure itself out. We'll see what happens when we get there. But what does this all mean for my YouTube channel? Because obviously I don't have to work anymore. I don't even have to think about work. All I have is YouTube. YouTube is my work. I can put as much time as I want into YouTube. Besides school exists once more. But I am planning to do some more live streams, and you know how Abigail Pinehaven does the world tour? I don't want to steal her idea, but I kind of want to do something similar to a tour where I just go around to all of the servers that you guys want me to do. So that is in the makings. Hopefully I can flesh it out a little bit, but I think that's it for my story. If you guys have any questions about working and things like that, then make sure to let me know in the comments below. I really appreciate you guys sticking around with me and for watching this whole video. If you're still here, I hope you enjoyed this little podcast. But I'm just going to do the outro on a run. I hope you guys are having an awesome day, or have had an awesome day, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Thank you all so much for listening to my rambly story time. Let me know if you want any other story times, but I will see you guys all in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!